G'day guys, how's it going? My name is CJ. So the Galaxy Note series is an excellent and special line of smartphone. I've always loved this series because it's consistently been at the bleeding edge of smartphone technology. But in any case, 2017 has been an excellent year for Samsung, and like the S8, the Note 8 looks to be one of the best phones of 2017. I've been using the Note 8 for the last 3 months, and I think it's time for us to have a chat about it. Let's take a look. So what can we say about Samsung's design these days? Gone are the tacky plastic shells, and now Samsungs are kings when it comes to industrial design, producing phones that are both beautiful and well built. And all of this starts with the screen, which is an excellent Quad HD Super AMOLED curved infinity display. And improving on the S8, the Note has one of the best and brightest screens on the market today. It supports HDR content, so consuming media is an absolute joy, and that's especially thanks to that huge screen, making it one of the most immersive phones on the market. And what I also like about the Note 8 over the S8 is that the curves on the corners are a little bit less pronounced as well, so meaning you have just that tiny little bit more of usable real estate. And then the rest of the phone is as you'd expect from Samsung. It's a Gorilla Glass 5 sandwich with an aluminium frame down in the middle. And what I like about the design of the Note 8 is that the glass curvature, when you compare it to the S8, is a little less pronounced, so it's a little easier to hold in the hand. You can call me old-fashioned, but I actually prefer the Note 8's blockier design compared to the sort of rounded edges of the S8. And then what's also nice to see externally is a headphone jack. However, when we're talking about audio, unfortunately Samsung still opts for a bang average downfiring speaker. And that's a real letdown considering as a package the Note 8 could have been an entertainment monster had it introduced stereo speakers. And speaking of letdowns, the Note 8 also has a dedicated Bixby button, which luckily we can disable, but it would be really nice if Samsung would at least pull their finger out and give us the option to customize the function of this particular button. But I'm not going to hold my breath. And finally, the phone is still weather sealed, meaning we've got an industry-leading IP68 water resistance rating, and that also applies to the S Pen. And what else is getting bigger is the RAM. In a very welcome bump, the Note 8's 6GB over the S8's 4 really helps with a lot of my concerns that I had with the original S8, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. It also rocks the 2017 essentials, either a Snapdragon 835 chipset or Samsung's own in-house Exynos 8895 in international markets. All of this adds up to the Note 8 having one of the best and fluid Android experiences I've ever had on a Galaxy phone. Much of the software jank that plagued the S8 and even previous Galaxy phones has been eliminated, and navigating the OS has been a complete breeze. Animations are smooth, apps loading is snappy, and multitasking is a breeze. The only real software jank that I saw was when you would restart the Note 8 and the phone had to get over the initial startup process. That being said, it's not exactly as snappy as say the Pixel 2 XL or the OnePlus 5. When compared with those two phones, there was probably just half a second of delay when hitting say the multitask button or trying to load apps. It's been 3 months and it's fared much better than the S8 did, which says it all really. And this performance hasn't significantly impacted battery life either, especially significant knowing that the Note 8 has a smaller battery compared to the S8 Plus at 3300 mAh. It's still inconsistent at times, but it certainly doesn't reach the heights of say the S8 Plus, the iPhone 8 Plus, or the Pixel 2 XL or the OnePlus 5T. But it still does achieve about 4 to 4.5 hours of screen on time. Still, pretty good for flagship standards. And then speaking of good things, the S Pen is probably the most useful it's been ever. But that probably doesn't say that much unless you were one of those in that small population who found the S Pen really useful. You can still do on-the-fly translations, you can still make GIFs or GIFs, and you can annotate screenshots. But they've also added live messages, which is pretty much a glorified version of the digital touch feature seen on the Apple Watch and other iOS devices. In any case, some people might find it a funny little gimmick, but this particular feature isn't for me personally. The most useful feature that I can see with the S Pen now is the ability to write as many quick notes as you'd like with the screen turned off. In the end, S Pen loyalists will love it, but I'm not convinced new users will really find a legitimate use for it. Chances are new users are going to play with it, do a few doodles in the first couple of days, and then completely forget about it or lose it. One thing you won't forget about though is the fingerprint sensor, because it's still in one of the most inconvenient spots of any phone. And then we've got the iris scanner, which probably is a little bit more secure than the OnePlus 5T, but it's certainly still slower and more unreliable. However, one thing that is reliable is the new dual camera lens system. The Note 8 gains an additional lens, which follows the footsteps of pretty much every other flagship on the market today, except for maybe Google and HTC. The primary lens is exactly the same as the S8 with an f1.8 optically image stabilized lens shooting onto a 12 megapixel sensor with dual pixel AF. The new second lens, however, adopts a similar principle to, say, the iPhone with a telephoto lens. It gives you 2x zoom, and like the iPhone 10, although Samsung will say they did it first, is that it will have an f2.4 aperture and optical image stabilization as well, which will be great for low light and video. Photos that come out of the Note 8 are excellent as you'd expect. It's a brilliant all-rounder, shooting great photos in both good and low light with great dynamic range, color reproduction, and sharpness. And that's the whole ethos of all these Galaxy cameras, is that they're reliable shooters. And that means that I've got confidence shooting with this camera in pretty much any scenario except for maybe scenes where it's pretty much pitch black. It also has a clear advantage when it comes to zoomed in photos compared to those who only opt with digital. Like other 2017 flagships, the dual lens system allows for this camera to take portrait photos with a shallow depth of field. And the way the Note 8 does it is similar to how the iPhone does it by using its telephoto lens to provide depth information. But in that same vein, like these kind of phones that use the telephoto lens, it does really well in most situations, however it really falls apart in low light. In the end, if portrait mode is important to you, I'd recommend you have a look at the Pixel 2 instead, because it does a much better job than pretty much every other camera on the market, and that's all down to its software optimization. It's just a little bit more reliable when it's detecting edges. And then we've got the 8 megapixel selfie cam, which is still one of the best on the market. It's got a slightly more useful focal length compared to the iPhone, and it's pretty much just as wide as the Pixel 2 selfie camera. One thing that sets it apart is autofocus, which is really surprising for flagship smartphones because of how useful it is. However, one caveat that I have with this particular shooter is that Samsung's image processing still bugs the hell out of me. I can't really describe it, but photos that come out of this particular camera, they can look both soft and sharp at the same time. It's quite hard to describe, and the only real way you'll notice any difference is if you compare two photos side by side. There's just a little bit more detail with some other smartphones like the Pixel. In the end, the Note 8 still has one of the best all-round cameras on the market today, and you're not going to be disappointed. So in the end, what do we have? We have a phone that's an excellent all-rounder with the best screen on the market, meaning it's probably the best when it comes to media consumption. It doesn't have any clear weaknesses aside from software updates, and it's a phone that's consistently pulled me back, and that's despite having the Pixel 2 XL, the iPhone 10, and the OnePlus 5T all in my possession for me to use. As an all-rounder, it's probably one of the best values on the market today, and if you look hard enough for it, you could probably find a Note 8 for a fairly reasonable price. Or if you're looking for a proper budget option, you could look at the OnePlus 5T, keep an eye out for the review, or if you look hard enough, you can actually find Galaxy S8 going for pretty much the exact same price as a OnePlus 5T. And it's basically the same as a Note 8, except with a little bit less RAM, a little bit more software jank, and no telephoto lens. In any case, what do you guys think about the Note 8? Do you think it's good value, or do you think people should look at a different phone? Let me know in the comment section below. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed what you saw, give us a like, and if you haven't already, do consider subscribing, and also hit the bell icon if you want to be the first to see all my videos when they drop. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. Take it at your mum for me. Cheers.